Let's dive right into this explainer by jumping straight into a cognitive trap. It's a little test designed by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, and we're going to use it to test your mind, right here, right now. Get ready, because we're about to explore exactly how your brain processes information, and we're going to do it by catching your brain red-handed making a mistake.
Okay, here's the scenario. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat cost exactly $1 more than the ball. So how much does the ball cost? I want you to try and solve it instantly. I can almost guarantee that a very specific number just popped right into your head. That number is 10 cents, isn't it? It just feels right. It's intuitive. Your brain is practically screaming at you that it has to be the correct answer.
But the correct answer is actually 5 cents. Think about it. If the ball costs 10 cents, the total cost would actually be $1.20 because the bat would be $1.10 plus the 10-cent ball. So the correct answer has to be 5 cents. A 5-cent ball plus $1.05 bat equals $1.10. Now, what's so fascinating about this little gotcha moment you just experienced is that it perfectly illustrates a silent, continuous conflict happening inside our brains every single day.
Which brings us to meeting your two minds, System 1 versus System 2.
To figure out why that 10-cent answer felt undeniably right, we need to meet the characters running the show. Kahneman frames human cognition as this constant, ongoing psychodrama between two totally distinct, totally fictitious characters living inside our heads. On one side, we have System 1. You can think of System 1 as our impulsive, freewheeling hero. It operates entirely on autopilot, it's lightning fast, it requires zero effort, and you have absolutely no conscious control over it. Then, on the other side, we have System 2. This is our conscious, reasoning self. It's slow, it's deliberate, and it's highly logical. System 2 is the guy that steps in to do the heavy lifting, like figuring out your taxes or parallel parking in a tiny space. But System 2 has a pretty massive fatal flaw. It takes a ton of effort to use, which means it is incredibly lazy.
Let's start with our automatic hero, System 1.
Let's see what System 1 is up to while System 2 is slacking off. System 1 is basically running continuously in the background of your mind. It handles everything from instantly detecting a tiny hint of hostility in a friend's voice to safely steering your car down an empty highway while you're completely lost in thought. To really grasp the sheer, stubborn power of System 1, just look at these two horizontal lines. The bottom line obviously looks longer than the top one, right? But this is the famous Mueller-Lyer illusion. The truth is, both horizontal lines are exactly the same length. But here's the crazy part. Even though I just told you they are the same length, heck, even if you grabbed a ruler and measured them yourself so your logical System 2 knows for an absolute fact they're equal, you still see the bottom line is longer. You literally cannot unsee it. You can't just switch System 1 off. Its cognitive illusions persist, totally regardless of what your conscious mind knows.
And this can build into some pretty intense cognitive conflict. Check out the words here. Try to quickly call out whether each word is printed to the left or the right of the center. Just say it out loud, left or right. You're almost immediately going to feel yourself stumble and stammer. Why? Because the word itself says lower or upper, but you are trying to state its physical position. Your System 1 automatically and effortlessly reads the text, and that impulse aggressively interferes with System 2's assigned task of identifying the location. You are literally fighting your own brain to say the right answer.
So, let's talk about the lazy controller, System 2. What actually happens when we constantly have to fight off those automatic impulses? Well, overriding System 1 isn't just mentally taxing. It causes real, measurable, physical strain. It actively drains our bodily energy. Let's look at a mental sprint Kahneman calls the add 1 task. Imagine hearing 4 random digits, let's say 5294. While keeping a steady 1-second metronome rhythm, you have to add 1 to each digit and speak the brand new string out loud. So 5294 becomes 6305. Sounds easy enough, but it is brutally hard. When people actually do this, their blood pressure goes up, their pupils dilate significantly, the effort just builds and builds with every single digit, reaching this almost intolerable peak where the pupil visibly widens in an inverted V pattern, and then it quickly contracts the exact second the task is over, or when the person just gives up. And that heavy physical toll leads us right into a vital concept called ego depletion. This is the loss of motivation and self-control that hits us after we exert mental effort. The crucial thing to understand here is that our self-control, our System 2, draws from a shared pool of mental energy, specifically glucose in our nervous system. When you force yourself to do hard cognitive work, or even just suppress your emotions, you are draining that energy pool. And when the glucose runs dry, that lazy system 2 basically throws its hands up and says, I'm out.
This next piece of data brilliantly, and honestly, kind of terrifyingly, shows ego depletion in the real world. Check out these approval rates for parole judges in Israel, mapped against when they last ate. Right after a meal, when their glucose levels are nicely replenished, they approve about 65% of parole requests. Mid-session, as their mental energy drains from making complex legal decisions, that approval rate drops to 30%. But look at that final bar. Right before their next meal, when System 2 is completely depleted, the approval rate flatlines, exactly 0%. Tired, hungry judges simply fall back on the law of least effort. It takes mental energy to carefully weigh a case and grant parole. It takes absolutely zero energy to just stick to the default, which is saying no.
Now, what happens when these systems collide and cause real errors in judgment?
When our logical System 2 is feeling lazy or is just totally ego-depleted, it leaves the front door wide open for System 1. And System 1 is more than happy to feed us superficially plausible, totally intuitive answers that lead to terrible judgments. Here, let's test it. How many murders do you think occur in the state of Michigan in 1 year? When you ask people this, they routinely guess really low numbers. Why? Total intellectual sloth. People don't instantly associate the entire state of Michigan with high crime. But what if I asked you about the murder rate in Detroit? You'd probably guess a much higher number. The problem is, lazy System 2 doesn't bother to search its own memory banks to remember that Detroit, a city famous for high crime, is literally inside Michigan. We just blindly accept the easy, low-effort feeling about Michigan instead of doing the work to cross-reference our geography.
Let's wrap up with how we can use this for smarter water cooler gossip and really apply these lessons.
So how do we actually use all this knowledge? Well, let's uncover the real reason Kahneman wrote this book in the first place. He didn't write it to make you feel bad about your grain. He wrote it to upgrade your vocabulary for the office water cooler. As he perfectly puts it, it is much easier, as well as far more enjoyable, to identify and label the mistakes of others than to recognize our own. And that is incredibly pragmatic. We are completely blind to our own blindness. But if you learn these labels, if you know what ego depletion is, or you understand how System 1 jumps to conclusions, you can start spotting these cognitive errors in your colleagues and friends first. You can actually notice when your boss is making a lazy System 2 decision just because it's right before lunch. That kind of informed gossip is actually the necessary stepping stone to eventually diagnosing and hopefully correcting your own biases.
Which leaves us with this final, somewhat provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. The next time you are absolutely, unequivocally certain of a decision, like when you knew without a shadow of a doubt that the ball cost 10 cents, just pause. Ask yourself, is this my logical System 2 doing the thinking, or did my System 1 just feed me an easy answer? Thanks so much for exploring your two minds with me today. Keep questioning your intuitions.